Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. This is a pretty exciting one. So, imagine writing a book that's under 300 pages long and then having Amazon post an 80-something page preview that contains a few of the key plot points and part of the ending. Well, that's happened, and we now know a good bit more about the lead up to the burning of Teldrassil and the battle for Lordaeron. Once again, it would seem that key character motivations have been left to the novels, which is a bit unfortunate, but it should mean that the information from this video should enrich the expansion for you a bit. Now, I think it's pretty easy to cover this in a very faction-balanced way. After all, I'm not really tied down to any faction myself. I play both, so I don't really lean in either direction that strongly. And, you know, I've seen a few summaries of this which don't really paint that realistic of an account of things, so there's definitely potential for this to be memed on, which means we should properly go into it. So let's just get started. So while Sylvanas was off war chiefing, a group called the Desolate Council formed in the Undercity. Sylvanas was very worried about this because it was a bit of a threat to her power. And then with the emergence of Azeroth over an Anduin site, he decided he wants to create peace. He knows how badly this new source of power could damage faction relations, so if they can establish a peace, it will be a good thing. Now, a deal is eventually struck between Anduin and the Desolate Council, wherein families split between Forsaken and Human could meet in a neutral field to have a reunion. Sylvanas is suspicious about all this, but she agrees, so they go there. Now, Kalia Menethil, the sister of Arthas who was introduced to the game in Legion, is there, and she's helping along with some priests to facilitate all of this, and she's not officially there with the Alliance. Now, do remember that she's the only heir to the throne of Lordaeron, so it's a pretty big thing. The meeting is to happen in ARTHAS'S, so everybody goes there. The undead are at Thoradaine's Wall, and the Alliance are at Stromgarde. And the meeting happens, and it starts off really well. Kalia is attending, and the Alliance forces who are back at Stromgarde, they know this, but they don't suspect she'll do anything, and after all, the Council had been working with Kalia to facilitate the whole thing. Now, at this gathering, a Forsaken father tells his daughter that this might be the only time they'll be able to see each other. She's sad, so the father thinks he might know a way. He walks towards Kalia and asks for a blessing, and while he leans in for the blessing, he says, "We need you now, it's time." After receiving the blessing, the father walks away, but soon Kalia notices that him, his daughter, and another family start walking slowly closer to Stromgarde. Kalia sees this and definitely is, let's just say, interested about what's going on. We then switch to Sylvanas' point of view. She sees a Forsaken talking to a priest, and that seems a little bit suspicious from her view. She then spots a few walking towards Stromgarde, and she fears that mass defection could happen. Nathanos does say that it could all be innocent, but Sylvanas decides to call the meeting off with 3 blasts of her horn, which was the pre-agreed ending signal for the whole thing, should she decide to cancel it. Now, at one point during the meeting, Kalia whipped around quickly, and it caused her hood to fall off. A nearby Forsaken priest who was loyal to Sylvanas, who was attending the gathering, realized that Kalia was, well, Kalia, because she was no longer disguised by her hood. So this priest hopped on a bat and rushed back to Sylvanas. Just after Sylvanas signaled the end of the meeting, this priest arrived and spilled the beans that Kalia Menethil was there. Now, from Sylvanas' perspective, it seemed like Anduin was putting Kalia there to facilitate a defection and install her on the throne of Lordaeron, perhaps even try to take the entire continent. So for Sylvanas, this seems really extreme. We now cut back to Kalia's perspective, and she is trying to get the Desolate Council leader to defect. But the Desolate Council leader says, nope, we can't betray Sylvanas, and she decided to go along with the retreat. So what Kalia was attempting to do here was really a spur-of-the-moment decision based off her emotional reaction to a few families making a very unwise move. And as we'll soon see, Sylvanas was not happy about this. While Kalia was arguing, Sylvanas ordered her Dark Rangers to take to the field. At this point, seeing all this, Kalia announced herself and told the Forsaken to run for Stromgarde. And right after that, the Desolate Council leader took an arrow in the chest, and Sylvanas' Rangers started to kill all of the Forsaken on the field. But they did keep their promise not to attack Alliance members. However, that does not extend to Kalia, who was not there as an Alliance member. Hopping back to Sylvanas' perspective, Nathanos asked her what she was doing. Why is she killing everyone? Well, Sylvanas explained that the Forsaken who are running back are probably doing so in fear, and if so, they're still not loyal. She concluded as well that Anduin is not stupid enough to wheel the Queen of Lordaeron out like this, so it probably is just Kalia being dumb and trying to make a move. Sylvanas does not want a war just yet because she says she's not quite ready. As for Kalia, well, Sylvanas takes to the field herself, she fires enough arrows to break through Kalia's shield, and she kills her, pretty much right in front of Anduin. And that really is mostly it. Kalia is later resurrected as a light undead, so she definitely is dead, but she's a different flavor. and then a Forsaken, who were raised, of course, using necromancy. Kalia reveals that she thought in this moment she could reunify Lordaeron's people and really change things. Anduin, of course, scolds her, but does concede that he thinks she was doing what she felt was right. So what's the lesson of the day? Simple. Detach. Things got a little bit hot in the moment for everyone, and it's led to a massive mess. Then in the epilogue, things wrap up with a conversation between Genn and Anduin. Genn talks about how he really feels he was wrong about the Forsaken, given what he saw today, where Forsaken and humans, during the Gathering, were able to come together, and it was clear that their differences were not fundamentally irreconcilable. As for Anduin, well, he hardens a bit. He thinks that people can change, but that Sylvanas is truly lost, and that his attempts for peace are akin to a farmer trying to farm a poisoned field. What do we learn here? Well, Sylvanas is harsh, but she's not totally mad. She was told that a defection was unlikely, and given the circumstances, it's impressive that she had the restraint not to kill basically everyone, especially because Anduin rushed out of the city on his own to attempt to save Kalia. He, of course, didn't get far enough, but still, if Sylvanas wanted to, she probably could have exploited the Young King's desire for peace to wipe out some of the Alliance leadership, including Felin, Genn, and Anduin, who were all there. The only ethical problem with what Sylvanas did is killing those who retreated and hesitated. Killing the defectors is a bit harsh, but it's not a crazy thing for her to do. Now, the implications of all of this are really interesting. What Sylvanas has done here is she's weeded out all sources of unrest with the Forsaken. By killing all of these people, including those who ran, she pretty much removes all of her internal enemies. The only people who were there on her side were the Dark Rangers, her loyal soldiers, and Nathanos. So really, she can go home, she can brand all these people as traitors, and use these events to convince the broader Horde populace that the Alliance was trying to orchestrate a coup that would have involved putting ARTHAS'S sister on the throne. This would be a sound political move from Sylvanas, even though she does admit that she personally doesn't think that Anduin is dumb enough to have actually tried that plan. As for Anduin, well, the conclusion that he draws from this is, Sylvanas has gone too far. He says that his constant attempts for peace are akin to a farmer trying to work poisoned land. It's just not possible until the land, in this case the political landscape, has changed. For him, it's clear that Sylvanas cannot be bargained with. So really, both faction leaders leave this book with really being a step closer to total war being permissible. Anduin believes that peace cannot be had until Sylvanas is gone. And while she doesn't think Anduin was playing games, Sylvanas does leave this having solidified her role as leader, both of the Forsaken and the Horde. She can blame the Alliance for the whole thing, which gives her a pretty easy way to get into war. As for Kalia, well, what she did was tremendously stupid and it got loads of people killed. I'm a little bit disappointed that this is how the war set up happened. It was just a sort of a random thing that someone did, but I kind of get what they're going for. Franz Ferdinand's assassination didn't cause World War I alone. It wouldn't have happened without the messy situation that had engulfed much of the continent at that time. So moving over to Warcraft land, well, the politics are quite obvious they're a mess, and it would only take a tiny spark to kick off a war. Now, as for Kalia, she's left in a strange position. I don't think anyone's going to be particularly charitable to her situation and what she did. Sure, it was very heartfelt, but that's not a mitigating factor. In fact, from my view, that would make what she did worthy of even more harsh judgment because of how she really was not able to control herself. Now, it is a little bit odd that Blizzard introduced her in Legion, didn't do much with her, and have sort of done this with her. I do think that she could end up playing a role in the future, though. I don't think they would just throw her out. Bolvar's been making moves recently as the Lich King, and, well, we now have a light-based undead. That's something that's very different from what we've seen before. Now, Genn's development in this is actually quite a nice touch. It's definitely a humanizing element to his character. How he's going to reconcile that with the events of Teldrassil, though, especially given what happens to him personally, that could be another story. Now, I do find it interesting how Golden tends to root things in something that's vaguely relatable to the real world. This is about families being reunified and a reconciliation, and that's of course conjuring up images of the Korean Peninsula. Then War Crimes was taking notes from the Nuremberg trials, plus time travel. But moving on, if I was to close this on anything, I think that putting so much pre-expansion context in the books is a bit of a failure from Blizzard. It's going to mean that the vast majority of players are not going to go into this plot knowing the same story that the people writing the plot actually know. That's going to make things feel disjointed for a lot of players, and it's going to make characters seem kind of jarring. Now, part of me thinks that the preview on Amazon is so large and so specific in what it covers that their intention is for the key plot points of the book to just get out there. I know that's a tad conspiratorial, but I don't think it's a tremendous leap in logic. But there you go, that's it. That is what really is one of the key events that kicks off this war, a reconciliation gone wrong where both sides really have an ample beef with the other one. The sort of beef that could easily be squashed if they would just get together in a room for a small period of time and talk it over, but that's obviously not going to happen between Sylvanas and Anduin, and we're actually left at a state where it's Anduin who believes that Sylvanas can't change, right? That she's a lost cause. Whereas with Sylvanas, she even admits in her own sort of internal monologue that she doesn't think that this was an evil ploy by Anduin. So that's a bit of an interesting note to leave it on. So thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And a massive thank you to everyone over on Patreon whose help has been instrumental with the channel recently. So over there you can get behind the scenes content. There's new Patreon posters and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you can check that out. The link down in the description. But with all that said, thanks for watching and I will see you next time. Thank you.